Hey, damn it. I can't start a show. I never know how to do this. It's Jeff May. Welcome to Jeff Has Cool Friends, everybody. Yay. We all cheer. Everybody wins. I'm very, very excited to have my very good friend on. This is actually, I believe, the first friend that I've never met in real life because we are separated by the earth.
Yes.
But very, very talented actor. I'm super happy to have you on. Excellent performer, Ethan Larwrence. Ethan, hey, buddy.
Hey, Jeff. How are you?
How's it going across the pond, mate?
Oh, it's going good, bruv. It's
good.
It's quite hot over here right now, innit?
Innit?
Yeah.
So funny. I was telling a friend of mine, my friend Duncan, who is originally from the UK. His father was a Muppeteer. Pretty awesome.
Wow.
And I was telling him, I was like, I'm interviewing a British friend on Thursday. Do you know him? As a joke. And then he's like, who is it? I was like, it's my friend Ethan Larwrence. And he goes, oh, bad education in the text. And I go, yeah. Hey, what is that? And then he went in and he goes, explains the show. So he's like, it's a show about the worst high school teacher ever besides you. Thank you for that, Duncan. Played by Jack Whitehall. Ethan starts out as the class whipping boy, but by the end, everyone realizes he's chill as
That pretty much sums it up, I think. That's quite an astute way of describing it.
Yeah, available on YouTube, which I have been enjoying it on YouTube. I thought it was available on HBO, but that was a different movie.
I think that's some really dark Spanish movie, I think.
Yeah, and I was like, this is not the thing. So I was like, this is easy, HBO. And then I was like, great, because British TV, it's not always easy to get over here unless you pay for like the BBC whatever like streaming service, and I'm not going to do that because I am racist against English people.
That's more than fair. We deserve it.
Which is weird because my heritage is decidedly English.
The apple falls further from the tree each time, doesn't it? It's
classic self-loathing. Most recently, the sort of like the bigger project that you worked on was called Afterlife.
Yes.
With on Netflix with Ricky Gervais. Is it Gervais or Gervais? I never learned.
Gervais is I think that's what he says. So I guess that's what goes.
I almost ran him over once by accident with my body, not like with my car. I was at a Muppet. I was at a Muppet for Muppets Most Wanted.
This is a Muppet-heavy episode already.
They all are. All roads lead to Kermit. No, I was at the there was a while that I was a mommy blogger.
Yeah.
And they sent me to see the Muppets Most Wanted for Disney, and we got to do like the press junket and stuff. And I had to take a piss, not take the piss, but I had to take a piss. And as I was leaving, I was exiting as he was entering the restroom. And I am a big man. I'm not a small dude. I'm a tall guy. I didn't realize how tiny he was.
Yeah, it's one of those things where sort of I think the screen sort of distorts, doesn't it? You imagine everyone to be 7'8".
They certainly have that aspect of like, generally speaking, from a height level, performers tend to be shorter. And I have my own theories behind that, but it was jarring.
I can't wait to dig into that.
If you want, I honestly feel like building up that talent at a young age oftentimes happens from people that choose to not engage in sports. I have a slightly working theory that the more one would be averse to sports at a young age, the more they would sort of excel at building the talent of the performing arts.
Well, see, I want to push back, but that
sure, you're welcome to.
Accurately describes me. So, I
mean, here's the thing. I know that's not the case. Like, that's not always the case. But like when you look at, where it's like Tom Cruise is only like, 5'5", it's like, well, that's, you're not going to be playing football or there's not a lot of sports that people are going to want to sign up for, and they're young, and children are cruel and nasty and mean, and you never know what direction it's going to go in. But I was always That's like a slight working theory that I have.
Well, I was quite good at rugby as a kid. Do you have rugby over there?
I mean, we don't have it as like a kid's sport because, you know, it's brutal. But we do have it, like, people play it in like clubs and collegiate levels. Like my college had a rugby team.
Right.
And it was mostly just dudes getting drunk and then going to different colleges and getting drunk.
Yep, that sounds like the rugby experience. Yeah.
Yeah, that was something. And I'm not, by the way, I when I'm like, oh, violent sports, like my college sport was boxing. Yeah. So I'm not going out of my way to pretend that I am above anything.
No, for sure.
Ricky, I know it's not like, obviously, like he's a massive star and everything like that. And so the shock that one would think of almost bumping into him, and this was before he became a bit more vocally problematic, but like it was more just me being like, this is a tiny person I almost ran over. Like it was jarring at because he was wearing a nice little crisp suit, but he was maybe like 5'5".
He's
5'6".
He's about
maybe?
the same height as me, and I'm 5'7".
Okay, so it was about that. Okay, see, I thought you were taller than that.
No, I'm a short ass, but I come from a family of short asses, so that sort of explains it.
It's honestly, in your world, that seems better, right? That's like a better thing to be.
I mean, to a degree. I mean, it's not really sort of held me back or pushed me forward in any way. I think it sort of helps if I'm sort of shorter, especially if I'm playing young. Like, yeah. It's a visually distinct thing if I'm like, you know, physically shorter than someone.
You did, but I mean, because you were Bad Education. That was what, 2012?
Yeah.
When that show came out, and you were, I'm doing the math here. You were 19, 20?
Yeah. So I got that job in the February of 2012, and I was 19 then. Yeah, just in my second term of university.
But you were playing a 15-year-old.
Yeah, I think he's 15 or 16 or something like that. But yeah, so I mean, it's across the board. It happens in, you know, nearly everything.
They call that what, 18 TLY, I believe, in the industry, 18 to look younger.
Something like that. I mean, to be honest with you, a lot of it comes down to, like, because obviously there's working laws around having people people who are younger working there. So I think of the class of that group, only one of us was below that age that you need to be at. So yeah, I mean, it was quite a wide range actually. Like, I was 19, but there was a couple in their 20s, a couple slightly younger than me. It was quite a broad church, as they say.
You were in college, you were in university. God, it's weird. I tried to adapt I was like, you were in university. I'm like, that's not what we say.
Sorry, college.
So you were in hi there. You were in college, man. So you were in college at the time, and when the show kicks off, it's pretty popular.
Yeah,
it seems to have done well. It got three series, is I believe how you say it, right?
Yes, series as opposed to a season.
In America, we call it a season.
Oh yeah,
that's going to be the whole episode, is me being like, "What do you guys call French fries? Chips? That's crazy, man. We have chips, but you call them crisps."
No, you're across it at least.
Yeah. What was that like then? Because were you going to school for the performing arts?
So it was a drama course that I was doing with a creative writing minor. Okay. But the drama stuff itself was largely theoretical. You know, it was more to sort of produce like academics as opposed to actors. And that was purely because I auditioned for a number of drama schools over here and didn't get in. I think largely because they tend not to accept people who are like just 18. They like you to have a bit more life experience beforehand, but then it ended up not mattering in the end. But I did complete the degree as well, so that was a busy 3 years.
What was the interaction from your peers at the time? Landing, like, were other people getting work like that, or was this like a unique situation?
This was pretty unique. It's hard enough to break into the industry regardless, and like, you know, so it was singularly unlikely that multiple people from my year were going to get in at all. But then a lot of them have now gone on to become actors and drama folk. But no, at the time it was pretty unique, and like there was gentle ribbing. I think would be the best way to describe it. I carried the nickname Beebs all the way through because it was on the BBC.
What an interesting ribbing.
Yeah,
you're like, I don't mind being low key insulted about being pre-successful, and like success, like having that acting success while I am still dealing with the fact that I'm going to school for the thing. Like that's an impressive thing.
Well, it's kind of a British thing, I think. Like our humor, a lot of it is sort of based around making sure that no one around us gets too up themselves.
That's fair. And then also that your humor is based on men wearing women's clothing.
There is that too. We have two different types of comedy.
Yeah, and accidental sexual harassment. That's the other one.
I'm sorry, I should have said we had three, and that's it. It's cross-dressing, accidental sexual harassment, and making sure there's no tall poppies.
That's it. And honestly, that's all we could ask for. That's all we.
You're welcome, America.
I do appreciate that. I've always found British humor to be like, sometimes it hits me really well, and then other times I'm like, man, I just don't get it. And that's
for example, you said you watched Bad Education before you came on here. What did you make of it? And feel free to be honest.
So I thought Bad Education I've seen about the first season and then a couple episodes of the second season, right. Because since we booked this and it wasn't too long ago, I binged the entirety of Afterlife.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I watched 3 seasons of Afterlife, and I watched about 1.5 of Bad Education.
I appreciate your commitment to the show. Honestly, that's really impressive.
I don't think people understand how committed I am to doing my job properly. And especially like if the episode was with Jack Whitehall, who is constantly on the show, and he's the center of the show moving through. Yeah. Obviously, I could have gotten more information through less, but you are a very strong supporting pillar of that show. But it takes it's pieces throughout every episode, so I can't just come up with information right away. Circling back to it, Bad Education, as I was watching it, I was like, okay, what level of, because I don't really know too much about the British education system.
Right.
So I was like, this is absurd. Like, it's an absurdist humor in that these people behave this way in front of children ever.
Right.
Which I'm assuming is correct.
Yeah, it's somewhat heightened.
It seems, the way as I was watching it, it seems like now I'm not too familiar with Jack Whitehall, to be honest. Is he stand-up?
Yeah, he did stand up over here for a fair while. He's sort of broken into acting now. He was in
okay.
Oh gosh, what's its name? That recent Disney film with Dwayne Johnson, Jungle Cruise.
Oh, okay, great, good for him.
Yeah, so he's starting to break over there, which is great.
The show reads like a stand-up comedian is writing a sitcom without really studying sitcom writing, in that the jokes are killer.
Right.
And then the genuine overall plots seem like they're very just thrown against the wall. Like, oh, we've got to do an episode about, politics or whatever. And then they do it. There are several moments that I laughed out loud at.
Oh, great.
There was like a self-defense episode.
Oh, yes.
And he says something like, non-action is the greatest, weapon of all. And there's a guy and just goes, nope. And then he extends a baton and bashes him in the knee.
Yeah.
that read from that actor and the way they wrote that specific joke, it murdered me. It was so good.
Oh, well, brilliant. Harry Peacock was the actor who played. I think he's the character's name is Preet. I think he's a South African. And yeah, like the Peacocks are like an acting dynasty over here. Like there's especially over the last maybe 30 to 40 years, like there's been peacocks popping up all over the place, and they're all extraordinarily talented.
I mean, we have a streaming service called Peacock. They should probably get on it.
Yeah, absolutely. God, why isn't Bad Education on Peacock? It's got a peacock in it.
So as I was watching it, that was kind of how I was viewing it. Is I was like, okay, from a plot writing perspective, I was like, this is fine. It's silly, and you could tell it was, at least from my thing, I was like, okay, so I don't know this guy, but this guy's a stand-up that came up with an idea for a sitcom.
Right, yeah, I mean, that was
something
quite prevalent in UK television at the time. Because there was kind of there's a bit of sort of British comedy history here. Sort of around the sort of mid-noughties, comedy became big business over here, stand-up comedy. And like with a number of like big stand-up shows on the TV. And so like comedians was becoming household names as opposed to sort of being like an adjunct to sort of the general entertainment sphere. Mm-hmm. And then sort of around that time, like commissioning editors were all in on, let's get this stand up to write a sitcom. And so there was quite a few of those sort of around sort of 2010 to about 2016. You couldn't move for sitcoms starring stand-up comedians written by them, where it's sort of more of a vehicle for jokes rather than sort of like a kind of complete story, if that makes sense.
Okay, well, that does make sense because that's how Bad Education read to me. Like, that's how, as I was watching it, I was like, this is a joke. This is pushing jokes. And obviously that's the goal of a sitcom. But at the same time, I was like, it was very clear to me. A lot of laugh out loud moments in a thing where I'm watching it and I'm just like, I don't know how this show made it on, but just the jokes are really strong. So that was my genuine view of it. Is it's very good from a joke perspective.
I mean, and that's fine because I mean, as you say, it's absolutely served its purpose. Yeah, it's a vehicle for gags, and you know we got through it, and as you said, like we were fortunate enough to be able to do 3 seasons of it, and then ended up making a film of it as well. So
yeah, I saw that there's a movie. Yeah,
and it's quite extraordinary, really, because at that time in British television, we had like 5 main like terrestrial channels, but the rise of digital was starting, and so this was on BBC 3, which was basically kind of like a youth-oriented thing alongside BBC 1 and 2. So because it was digital, the audience was smaller, but like we were breaking records with it. Like we were, I think we had like just over 1 million people watch the first episode live.
Really? 1 million people? So 1 million people saw you get bullied? Because that's the thing is, and one of the things I noted from these, the 2 shows that I got to watch, and I know you've done so much more. It's just what is accessible to me
for sure,
and how I can choose and pick my time. In that your characters tend to be very put upon. They tend to be very bullied.
Yes, I think that's a fair assessment.
How does that affect you as a human? This is what it tends to be. I mean, of course, you're getting work.
Yeah, I mean, actually, that's like 60% of it. Like, you know, I'm happy to take anything as long as I'm getting paid. But I mean, ultimately, like, I think it's because you know, having done this for like 10 years now, I understand what my niche is, and like it's been, you know, a very lucrative niche for me. I've been able to, you know, say that I've been a professional actor for 10 years and like, you know, never needed a handout or anything like that, apart from that one time I had to do pizza delivery, but that's another story. But yeah, like,
wait, did you?
Sorry?
You had to do pizza delivery?
Yeah, so this was
we'll come back to that.
Sorry?
Oh, we're going to come back to that. Don't worry.
For sure,
I don't want to derail you, but go on.
But yeah, so like I think once you're in that sort of situation and you're thinking to yourself, right, well, this is my niche, this is how I'm making my money, like it ceases to be a problem in my eyes. And you know, it is what it is. Like, you know, I understand that my shape and who I am is sort of part of the comedy process itself. But I mean, as you say, there's been other stuff as well where sort of like being put upon isn't so much of an issue. You know, I've had, you know, some you know, more varied stuff. It just so happens that possibly the 2 biggest things that I've been involved with have involved that aspect to it.
Yeah, because that was one of the things I was watching where I was like, I mean, like, because obviously, like, hey, man, like, get paid. But at the same time, I was like, I don't know, man. I would feel I mean, for me personally, I'd be like, man, am I just like getting made fun of all the time? But your characters are strong and fun and really well done, which kind of removes that aspect to it. But it just was something that I noticed both times, is that sort of the whipping boy energy that they kind of gave you.
Like I said, Bad Education was targeted mainly towards a youth market, so we're talking sort of like 15 to 25s. And like even now, I get messages from people who sort of like really connected with Joe and what he went through. Joe's the character name, sorry. I don't know if we've said that.
Yeah, the Joe character, yeah, because there's a lot to dive into with that character too.
But yeah, so like I get messages even now, like however many years on, with people saying that like his story really connected with them. And I suppose like if in my head I'm sort of like, well, great, then it achieved its purpose. Because I hate to use the word representation, but like it did represent short little fat guys on the TV for a bit, which is nice.
It did, and it's one of those things too, where, and that's kind of why I wish I had been able to see the entire run, to see sort of the comeuppance, or as my friend Duncan said, where everyone realizes that he's chill as. I would have loved to see that part, and I will continue to. I will finish the show.
Oh yeah, you have to let me know what you think.
Yes, of course. But I was just, obviously when I see that, and I'm like, oh, I wonder how that felt for you emotionally. Like, do you get recognized on the street?
More so now after Afterlife.
Okay. Do people?
Because, like I said, Bad Education did well for a digital channel, but it was still like relatively niche.
Okay.
So it didn't happen often. Maybe once or twice a month when we were allowed to go outside. But
Right.
after Afterlife Series 3 especially, because the other thing was that Afterlife Series 2 was released in April of 2020, so we were all locked down. Like there was no opportunity to go out or anything like that. But Series 3, when that came out in the January of this year, like it's almost been overwhelming. Like people coming up and saying, "Oh, Afterlife is brilliant," and it's like, "Cheers, thanks." And it's mad, really.
It is great. Okay. Well, we'll shift to Afterlife. Because I watched it, and you gave me you warned me that you were like, well, this is the show. I think you'll like it, depending on your opinion of Ricky Gervais.
Yes,
Gervais.
I think that's a fair caveat to make.
Which is fair. I mean, he is. There is a problematic aspect to his existence that is very, the transphobia that we've seen coming out of him, as well as Chappelle. And that certainly did sort of flavor my previewing of it, where I was like, I have to watch this Ricky Gervais thing. And it was a good reminder that he's very talented.
Yeah.
And he's a great writer. And that's not why anybody doesn't like him. I watched the show. It's great. Your character starts out as one of these characters that there's like a highlighted character that they interview for the newspaper every day. That's like kind of the bit. Every episode is there's one wacky character that wants to get into the newspaper, and you can tell the audience what your character does.
So we see the outside of the house and external, and we hear like some discordant recorder sounds playing, like the sort of flute thing. And we cut inside, and I'm there playing them with my nose, and that's the story. That's the sort of local interest newspaper story that they've come to interview me about. He's this guy who can play two recorders with his nose, largely for the reason that he doesn't have a job and doesn't do anything. And so that was. I mean, when I got the call up for that, I did the audition and like went in, and I was there for maybe 90 minutes, and like that was my whole work day, and then that was it for Series 1 basically.
Did you know the character was going to have a recurring role?
I had absolutely no idea, and this ties into the pizza delivery while we're here, because it wasn't long after getting that job that like the job's like basically dried up. And so I was like, right, well, I've still got rent to pay. So I hopped in my car and started shuffling pizzas around. And that was supposed to be sort of like a stopgap until I could get back on my feet. I ended up being there for a year. And it was Afterlife Series 2 that pulled me out of it. because suddenly I get this call and they say, "Oh, we want to bring this character back, and not only do we want him back, we want him in all 6 episodes of series 2." And I was like, "Okay," and handed in my 2 weeks, and away we go.
I mean, that is a life-changing situation. Yeah, like
For sure. I mean, but it was the same with Bad Education as well. Like, I fell like ass backwards into that. Mm-hmm. And it's I'm not someone who believes in fate per se, but like it sort of seems like every time I'm like at my lowest, something comes in and sorts it all out. And I don't believe in it being like a manifest destiny, but sometimes I do look back on sort of like the kind of weird ups and downs that my career has had and gone, it seems like someone's looking out for me. I don't know.
It's a good reminder. I remember I talked to the actor Paul Walter Hauser,
right?
Who he is a friend. He's an old friend from the stand-up times, and there were times where he's like, I had to leave Los Angeles, go back to the Midwest, and eat for a little while, but never give up and keep saving and working and pushing and finally getting that break. And it really is like, obviously, there's the whole aspect of like, oh, I got lucky.
Yeah.
I had a similar experience of getting lucky. Not everybody finds themselves on a stupid game show on Netflix winning money. Like it's luck, but also there's a thing where it's like, yeah, but you put yourself in the position.
Yeah. I mean,
you
it
built
took me
the
a long time to come to terms with that, I think. Like, for a long time, it was sort of like, this is all. It felt like it was happening to me rather than I was making it happen, and it sort of took a lot. It took a lot, like sort of mental processing to go. No, I'm hot actually. I'm actually pretty good at acting.
Yeah. When you were doing pizza delivery, did anybody recognize you?
So over the course of that year, I did 16,000 deliveries, just in excess of that. And I got recognized 3 times.
Really?
And I tell you what, that's a wake up call for you.
Yeah, how does that feel?
I mean, it's sort of 2 things going into it. One, it sort of reminded me, being there at all was like a near constant reminder that this can just go away at any point. Mm-hmm. But also, I sort of didn't want to be recognized. Not that I was sort of embarrassed by pizza delivery or anything like that. I just thought it would make the conversation at the door awkward. And those 3 times it sort of did.
I get like, there's nothing embarrassing about pizza delivery, but there is something embarrassing about seeming like you've had to leave your career to do something else.
Well, that was it. It was like, oh, you're from Bad Education. What are you doing this for?
Yeah.
But it's like,
a lot of people.
Things are bad at the moment.
A lot of people don't get that. A lot of people don't understand that, it's with the tides.
For sure. And like with with my various social medias, I try to be, when people ask questions about this sort of stuff, I try to tell them the unvarnished truth. Because I think there's a lot of stuff out there where it's sort of like, once you made it, you're set for life. And it's like, no, it's graft. It's constant graft. I mean, you'll know yourself, as a comedian and podcaster, like, you have to make your own luck in a lot of ways.
There's a lot of stuff where like I'm certainly not in your level of visibility, obviously, but I have fans, and I try to be very honest too about it, where it's just like, oh yeah, I'm really glad you love this thing. I'm starving. And that was, from 2014 up to 2018, I was driving for Uber, and, never ashamed of it, never hiding it, but still just being like, why can't I stop? Why can't I not have to do this anymore? And, technically still waiting for that. I have sort of leaned into the idea that I am much more of like a cult podcaster than somebody that's going to get write-ups in the New York Times and stuff. And my friends do get those. Because that's... You found me through Unpopular Opinion, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was a day one on Unpopular.
You were day one, huh?
Yeah, I've been around a long time, because I read a lot of Cracked back in the day.
Well, it was good.
And so when Todd Brown started this podcast, I was like, hell yeah, jumped right on that, and that's how I discovered you. It's how I discovered a lot of folks actually that have then ended up sort of being sort of internet friends. which is
yeah.
nice.
I mean, there are a lot of people on that have been on Unpops and have gone through the sort of rotating doors of you know, oh, this person was on Unpops, and then later, you know, they get this huge, you know, Emmy winners and stuff.
Yeah.
It's definitely been an interesting family to be a part of, and I obviously had my ups and downs with Adam that we talked about on Unpopular Opinion, but I am very proud of that show, in spite of the fact that it is not my show. I am very proud of what I contribute to that show.
Well, that's the thing I was going to say. Like, you know, you're an integral part of it. Like, you know, it wouldn't be the show without you.
I mean, it would be the show without me.
That's fair.
And it is often the show without me. You know, I don't get to co-host every week, and that's totally okay. I totally understand that because there's a lot of people and everything, and we can't schedule it perfectly. But I love doing it. Adam is one of my best friends in the world, and
You'd never say that to his face, though. You never would.
Oh, I'd kill him first. But I love what I bring. Because Adam, and here's something interesting. Adam might be the best researcher I've ever met in my life.
I seem to recall you said something like that when you interviewed him for this podcast.
It's jarring.
He's so amazing.
And he tells me, he's like, yeah, but you just do this, that. And remember, I come from the world of academia. Like, I've researched a lot. Like, it's been my job. And I was like, he's so good at finding and connecting certain things. And my talent, sometimes I need to remind myself, because my talent is really reacting to that stuff off the cuff.
Sure.
Having that information. And like, I'm very good at like, even as a boxer, I was a counterpuncher, and that's how I am with jokes. I'm very good off of other people. And so I feel like that's why that works well.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Is that he comes with very prepared information that is perfectly curated and very funny. Like the notes, just reading the notes that he sends us is very funny.
I can imagine.
And then the interaction in that is really fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great show. I'm glad it survived as long as it did, like, you know, through thick and thin.
Yeah, I was glad to come back. I really was glad to come back to it. It is a great show, and I do support it. And if you're listening to this and you head on over to Unpopular Opinion and listen to an episode, we do good stuff, and you know, we do the you don't even like sports.
That's also a very good podcast, and it actually, as we alluded to like really early on in this talk, I don't even like sports, but I like that podcast.
Most of our fan base is that.
Yeah.
Like that's why, and that's kind of why because Adam and I loved talking about like classic sports. Like we liked talking about old sports stuff. It was funny. And we were like, we should do a sports podcast, but everybody that loves us hates sports. And we were like, well, we should just come up with a name. And that was the name that we settled on, was You Don't Even Like Sports. And I have consistently been tweeted that phrase of me not even liking sports. I feel like I've gotten 1,000 tweets.
Probably. I mean, it's
at me about that.
It's a victim of its own success because it's such a good catchphrase.
You know, it's what's funny about it too is that show is probably the least listened to show that I have, and the one that I want people to hear the most because of how it would upend their opinions on what we do.
And it's a proper riot as well. Like, you know, all the people that you've spoken about, like the John Daly one most recently. I loved it. It was so much fun.
Oh yeah, where we are going to be recording as of the release of this episode. That episode should be out. So yeah, and then that means it'll be available for free. I love that show. And you know what's funny is a lot of my friends who are podcasters are like, this is my favorite podcast, which is like that's the biggest compliment to me, is like, I'll be recording an episode of Tom and Jeff Watch Batman or something, and Tom is just like, when are you going to get the next You Don't Even Like Sports? Like, when's that coming out? I need it. Or he'll be like, I listened to that episode twice. And I'm just like, Jesus.
That's good. It's 2 listens, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not mad about it. Hey, I'm gonna do a thing. You've heard the show, you know. So I don't know if you guys know this, but if you are a Patreon member, if you're a patron, I believe is the word. If you go to patreon.com/JeffMay, you are hearing this episode early and uncensored with bonus content. And if you sign up for the producer tier, you get to do that thing where I say your name out loud on here. Ethan.
Yes.
Would you like to discuss these names?
I would love nothing more.
I really enjoy this part where people get to interact with these names.
All right, here we go. Get me improvisational head on.
Oh, this is great. Perfect. No notes. Shout out to Asking Seven. Shout out to In the Time Since he changed his name on this document, Jezbutt had a kid, got a new job, and got COVID.
Congratulations to two of those.
Yeah.
And sorry to hear about the other one.
Sorry about the new job. Shout out to Kimball, the casual Frankenstein.
Oh,
the
yes,
target
as
lost...
opposed to the smart casual Frankenstein.
Well, Frankenstein does wear a little suit.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. It might be nice to sort of see him in a t-shirt and cutoff jorts.
Like a tank top, like a Jaws tank top.
Flip-flops.
That's literally how I'm dressed right now. Flip-flops, a Jaws tank top, and linen pants.
Jeff May's monster.
Said Jeff May's monster is this podcast. Shout out to the target loss prevention officer currently hunting Jeff. You ever shoplift?
No, I haven't.
No. What's the biggest crime you've ever committed?
Biggest crime I've ever committed. Oh God. Trying to think if I've ever committed a crime.
You were a British youth. You were probably listening to Dizzy Rascal while harassing old people. I don't know.
Yeah, something like that. We knocked over a bus stop and pushed an old lady into the road. That's it.
Yeah. Professor Green, mate, and then just run away or whatever. I don't know. I do. I shoplifted
from the UK scene there.
I had the Streets. I've seen them live. I'm a huge fan.
Streets very good.
I've seen Lady Sovereign live 3 times.
Another very, very good choice.
Very talented. Very talented. Shout out to Steven. That's it. Just Steven.
Just Steven. Hey, Steven.
Billy ban brioche buns on burgers Beck.
No, so this has been a bone of contention for a while, hasn't it? The brioche bun.
Once I say an opinion, I brought that on an episode of Unpopular Opinion. I brought that unpopular opinion that brioche burgers are garbage. Brioche buns are garbage for burgers. They're not made for it. They shouldn't be there. People did not like that.
I sort of have I have a sort of mid-range opinion on that because I'm not 100% sure how similar brioche buns in the States are to over here.
It's a sweet, it's like a dessert bun.
Yeah,
isn't
for
it?
sure.
Like,
but I know that like you guys had more sugar in your bread, I think.
I mean, it's sweet, but I wouldn't consider a brioche bun to be classically sweet, but that's only because our candy is ridiculous.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Shout out to Cody Beck. That's Billy's wife. They are married and they're separate subscribers to the show.
That's love. Like for between them and for you also.
And for me. Most importantly for me. Shout out to Mike Gouts, Lisa McCarty at Comics Book Girl. Comics with an X, girl with a U.
She's plugging herself in the plugs.
That's the smartest way to do this. That's a good investment of your money, to be 100% honest. Shout out to Aeschylus and his tortoise. That is a reference to my idiocy on bull where I believed a wrong answer.
I didn't get to see that show. I don't think we have it over here. I don't know if it's on the UK Netflix.
It might not be, and that's okay. It looks like I lost, so it's not that impressive. Shout out to Dr. DNA.
Dr. DNA. That's actually a UK rapper.
Oh, hell yeah. Shout out to Hooray for Pontius Pilate. And I did a little bit more thinking on this from the last episode. This was written by my friend Tim, who was a previous guest of the show. Yeah. And it was absolutely something that I wrote on an Easter egg. And my mom was not happy.
Blasphemous. Absolutely blasphemous.
Literally blasphemous, yeah. Shout out to the scene in Meet Joe Black where Brad Pitt dies.
Okay, shout out to that.
I'm never going to have a history podcast, you little so stop asking.
This feels like the wrong space to bring that up.
Well, people pay their money. They can say what they want.
I just want to know who that's targeted at. Is it targeted at you? Have you been pressuring someone into make a history podcast?
No, it's been the opposite. People have pressured me into doing it. They want me. They want me to do like a hardcore history thing, because of obviously, I taught world history and I do podcasts, but like, I don't like it. Like,
it's a reason you got out of it.
I don't want to do that. Like, that is a kind of work to me that I don't find fun.
So what I'm hearing is you subscribed to yourself and wrote that in yourself.
I mean, kind of. Yeah, let's do that. Let's just do that. Let's just assume that's the case. Mackenzie, Sisyphus may be happy, but he's into CrossFit, so f him, chill.
Fair.
This dude has...
I know, I was going to say, that's fair.
Yeah, he's got the best shoes in the world. He's got these like glossy pink shoes. He comes to Mint on Card every once in a while when he's in town.
Lovely.
And I'm like, I want those shoes so bad. He's like, I bet, but you're not going to find them anywhere. Which was great because they were like older or whatever. Instagram and Twitter's at Bob_of_skull. Spoiler alert, I also use his HBO password. Shout out to Bob.
Nice. And again, that's how you do it. That is search engine optimization at its finest.
I know. That's one of the extra benefits is if you pay a certain tier, I get to use your passwords for streaming services. It's a very unique tier. It's a very unique tier that you get to be a part of. Sergeant Pepper's hot dog flavored water.
I like that. That's a good combination of things.
Yeah, Lemming Malloy.
Lemming.
Shout out to Norm from Cheers. Norm also curates all of the cursing on the show.
Norm.
Yeah, tits. Shout out to Burrito Mouth, Dan Hackroyd. As long as we're bringing back Pepsi Blue, let's bring back the Bigfoot from Pizza Hut.
Those two things mean nothing to me.
I was just going to say, do you know what any of those things are? You guys have Pizza Hut, but
I know what Pizza Hut is and I know what Pepsi is, but I don't know about those specific things from those places.
Well, that's fair because those are from when you were probably too young to recognize them. I, Jeff May, believe that there is no better streaming service than Tubi to watch Armand Assante movies.
Oh, so are we done with the shout outs?
We sure are. The rest is just going to be me going through like a Tourette's burden torrent here.
This is such a great announcement. I love that you're open to just have people put words in your mouth. That's great.
They pay me money. I would be dead if like the thing about it is I am not very well off doing this podcast. So every dime helps. And if some of those dimes are $10 a month, hell yeah, dude.
Hell yeah.
So shout out to the itty bitty Millie committee, pity the fool. It's weird that I didn't get tripped up on that. And yet the brioche buns on burgers thing just murdered me.
The actual tongue twister you managed to get through.
Yeah, Kelly says, get your booster, you gaslighting dip turds. Shout out to the guy who played JJ in Barry Gordy's The Last Dragon, excuse me. Shout out to my co-producer at Mint on Card, Lisa Harden, who also is a producer of this show, and I don't even know if she listens. That's fine. She still gives me money, and I'm okay with that. I think a lot of people pay this and have never heard a show, and that is fine. That's okay.
That's just keeping you alive, I think. I just want to make sure you don't starve.
I'm okay with it. Like my friend Jessica Robertson, for example, or Silius Ruby. Shout out to the Digital Phil, the ghost of Dave Thomas. Ooh.
Spooky.
All right. Shout out to Vortispin. Shout out to Jocular Haggard Cantankerous Fool.
I like that one.
Yeah, those JHCFs really show up.
Great stuff.
Jeff may convince me to quit Twitter, and you should quit too because it's awful. You're not wrong.
You haven't quit Twitter though.
I can't. I'm not allowed to. I'm
legally.
It's like the mob for me. Like I'm stuck. If I wake up with a caffeine withdrawal headache in the middle of the night, should I be drinking more energy drinks or fewer? And the answer is fewer, or you will wake up with a heart explosion.
Was that all of it, or were you editorializing at the end?
I editorialized a little bit.
More than fair.
Gotham City OSHA. That's a nice Tom and Jeff Watch Batman reference. Do you listen to that one, or is that one not in your purview?
I've heard a few episodes, but not all.
Okay.
It's one of those ones that fell by the wayside, and I'm so sorry about that.
You don't have to apologize for not listening to everything that I do. That's not how this works. There's a reason that I do 4 very different podcasts for a reason. Technically 5 if you want to count Ugh Fine. But like this one is obviously the long form interview of me just talking to a friend and having a good time. You know, Batman is like a rewatch. Unpops is usually current events, and you don't even like sports as sports. Like I'm trying to extend my tentacles into as many different pools as possible to give you all something.
I mean, if you take it as that, that's a very diverse portfolio.
In a way, it's purposeful and cultivated. Like, if I did a Batman podcast and then a Spider-Man podcast, a lot of the same people would be very happy.
But there's not much room for growth.
But there's not a lot. And also, like, I only have so many hours in a week to be able to do this.
Yeah,
which people, I mean,
bad education still talk to me.
I've watched, to prep for this show, I have watched, let's see, if it's about half an hour for 18, so about 9 hours of Afterlife. We'll bring it down to 8 because not every episode is that long. So about 8 hours of Afterlife, and then another. So I've watched about 13 hours of television, just to prep for you, as well as like the researching stuff.
I mean, like I said, give this man your money.
It is work. People don't know it's work. I mean, it's funny when you explain it as work and people are like, it's like, yeah, but I have to actively watch this stuff. I just can't have it on while I'm like playing Candy Crush.
And also to peek behind the curtain, like this is the start of your workday and very much the end of mine.
Yeah, no, it's 9 a.m. for me. This is my only recording today. I have a meeting, a Comic-Con prep meeting Friday morning. Then I'm going to my boxing class. Then I have 2 recordings and then a movie night with Gamefully Unemployed. That's my Friday.
That's a busy Friday.
It is a constantly moving Friday. It's very Sisyphean. But I love what you do. If you love what you do, then you never work a day in your life. That's a lie. I work all the time. Nicholas, simply having a wonderful man bun time. Fabian. Have you heard the most recent episode of this show yet?
No, I haven't.
It's with Therese Curatolo, where 2 of her favorite things are Paul McCartney and man buns, and 2 of my least favorite things are Paul McCartney's song "Simply Having a Wonderful Christmas Time" and man buns.
Good combo then. I imagine there was a lot of friction. I can't wait to get to it.
It's a great episode, actually. It's very fun. Jen, be earnest. Enjoy what you love. Shout out to the local man at Gavin_Not. Not has 2 T's. Shout out to Ass of Bass. That's a good one. Adam Warlock, he wants your soul.
He wants his soul.
Verbose Minimalist, world's humblest man. Shout out to at the Pajamarai on Instagram for pictures of my feats of strength. Kale's only true purpose is as the garnish at a 1996 Pizza Hut buffet. Shout out to the delightful Christy Salinas. Shout out to Parker Aylesworth is not that tall. He has fake legs. Nice try, Lieutenant Dan. I know how tall you are. Shout out to 3 Jacob Trembleys in a trench coat sneaking into an R-rated movie.
Oh, wow. If he's a grown man, that would be very tall.
Yeah. They would just watching like a 16-foot homunculus try to walk into an R-rated movie.
I'm afraid you can't come in. You absolutely cannot come in.
Yeah. No. And as a matter of fact, we are calling the army right now.
The full bore army.
Yeah. Shout out to Where's Clawful?
Where is it?
He's literally right over there. I have like so many of him just right on the other side of this. Do I have one? I don't have one behind me.
Asked and answered.
Do you collect anything?
I collect dice for Dungeons and Dragons purposes.
You're a gamer.
Yes.
Oh, we're going to talk about that.
That's going to come up later in the pod.
Shout out Cronenberger Meisterburger. Shout out to It Was Me, Jeff. I've been giving you $10 a month since the beginning so you could afford more gas station Pop-Tarts, keeping you sluggish. Just slow enough for me to steal Christmas.
Wow. How long has your Patreon been active?
A little over a year.
That's a lot of $10.
I appreciate that. Is it a year? It's been a year. I mean, this is going to be the 34th episode, I want to say, and it's a bi-weekly show. So
yeah.
So you get it.
Just over a year then.
Yeah, this is the episode 35. So yeah, a little over a year and a quarter. Let's see. We got in Soviet Russia, we have cool Jeffs. A little.
Can you confirm or deny?
It's a Yakov Smirnov situation. I don't know if there are any Jeffs in Russia, but if so, that's awesome.
Jeffsky.
Yeah, Jeffovich. El Celdo is going to see the Grand Canyon no matter what Jeff says.
Oh, yes, yet another point of contention.
Go waste your money, mother. I do love the crossover. Like the Jeff May Podcastomatic universe has a lot of crossover experiences. This is my Professor X showing up in Doctor Strange here.
Well, I suppose this is probably the best way to lambast you for your opinions.
Yeah, is to just make me say whatever those opinions are. Shout out to Aaron Meyer. Shout out to the great radvertising scam, a Jeff May joint. It's coming, folks. Just be patient with me. Radvertising will come. I'm sorry it's so late, but I don't want to give you something that I don't think is good. I'm not just gonna put it out there to get content put out. I'm going to make this as good as I possibly can.
So sit your ass down, lad.
I mean, they're right to call me out on it because I planned to have it by like late fall of last year, and it's just all the that has circled and spiraled and gotten out of control and taken up my time. You know, the game show alone took like almost 2 months of my time just to make it happen. So, but worth it. Worth it. The paycheck was worth it. I bought a new car with it.
Well, there you go. It's paying for itself.
So shout out to Tyler Wilgus. Shout out to Jeff using Deep Blue Sea memes to break bad news. That was from when Betty White died. That's a 6-month-old name.
Wow.
I did. You ever see the movie Deep Blue Sea?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, you know when the shark bites off the dude's arm.
Yeah, it's rough.
What's his name? This Mr. Sarsgaard's arm. I used that as a Betty White's death meme. It's fine. Shout out to Grey Man of the Nightmare Potluck. Everyone is welcome at the table.
We have to go. We have to go one day.
We gotta go to the Nightmare Potluck.
We gotta go. I'm gonna fly over.
I'll bring my best dish. I hope you like eggs. Just bringing a bunch of eggs to a potluck. You guys like eggs, man.
12 dozen eggs.
Show me in the rules where it says a dog can't play basketball. 12 dozen eggs. That's the gross eggs. That just sounds. That doesn't sound good as my name. Hi, I brought a gross eggs. And then people will be like, I don't understand what's happening right now. And I'm like,
no, look, so many eggs.
Shout out to Eat and Die Grand Canyon.
Okay, so you've split the room on that one. We've got some in favor, some not.
It's a hard opinion, but I respect it. Shout out to Farty Marty's Nerd Party. Gerard Ruane, Odessin Molotov says, topple the patriarchy, get today.
Great.
Okay, all right. On to you. Gregorio is mentally preparing to fight Jeff in Mortal Kombat, but to train him in Street Fighter. Train with him in Street Fighter. Yeah, that's... How would you do in Mortal Kombat? You think you'd do all right?
I think I would be immediately killed.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I'd make it to the arena.
Yeah, you just die on the way through.
Yeah, I'd have a heart attack on that.
Yeah, in the way in, yeah. Just be like, you know what? I'm gonna go.
This seems too difficult, I think.
A demonic ninja wants to throw a spear at me?
No, I'm not about that life. I'm a lover, not a fighter.
Shout out to Goji. Shout out to Rudy. Daft Punk has an anime Rueda.
Does it?
You like anime? You like anime? You own Dice. Do you like anime?
I've never been a big anime guy. I never did watch it, really.
So
I like the join between anime and Dice.
I mean, a lot of people that collect Dice collect anime. You cannot tell me
calling
that
me
that's
a
not the
nerd,
case.
Jeffrey?
Yes.
Okay, fair.
I'm a professional nerd. It's fine. Shout out to Jeff Hates Competitive Fun. Ooh, you get it.
Nice.
The Return of Magnolia Thunder.
It's back.
Nerd numbers. Huey. Strange Takes number 111. Flesh to Flesh with the Mad Dick of Baron Hordu. Okay.
Yeah, not fully sure what that means, but
I think that might have been strange. I think it's going to be supposed to be Strange Tales. Sound out if you're that person. Sound off in the thing. I think it was supposed to be Strange Tales number 111, Flesh to Flesh with the Mad Dick of Baron Hordo, because Baron Mordo would have been a Doctor Strange villain, and Strange Tales would have been a Doctor Strange comic. So
that's deep lore.
I do my best for the Doctor Strange dick reference cinematic universe.
Well, as long as you're across it, keeping it all in line.
Yeah, I'm the chronicler. That's what I am. I have the show Bible right here. So shout out to Bart Fardigan, Patrick Dore or Dore. I keep that up. I don't know which one. I got it. I probably got it right.
Yeah.
Shout out to @AV Foundry, Jennifer Fendelander, Bodacious Big Bad Bouncing Bollock Bonanza.
Oh, there's a bollock in there.
Bollock. That's right. That means testicle, right?
Yeah. Pair of bollocks.
Bollocks.
Bollocks, mate. Hey, innit?
No, innit, mate, bruv.
Bruv, that's a load of bollocks, innit?
Jumping rope, still a sport. Jeff not liking it, still a fact. Maine, more than Stephen King. That's my Maine accent.
It's very good.
I can do that in a Maine accent. Oh yeah, Maine, they are more than Stephen King. That's my Maine accent.
I wouldn't be able to do that. I'm not nearly talented enough.
I'm not talented at all. That's why I do a podcast. Okay. Shout out to Big Booty Boy 42069.
Nice.
Nice. Shout out to Ricky Cilantro, Null and Void, Koi Farm Art and Mentoring, Bauhaus. And finally, Aldo, I canceled my dating app subscription to use the money on Patreon Vargas. Ladies, find yourself a nice Aldo Vargas. He's taken himself voluntarily off the digital market, but if you want to throw him some ass, I mean, if I can be that app for him, I'll do it.
He's a charitable soul. You'll love him.
He is. He's a giver, ladies.
Yeah, ladies.
He's a giver. Go for it. Or gentlemen. I got to be honest, I don't know what dating app Aldo is using. I don't mean to suppose. Whoever they are that Aldo wishes to, be with, go for it. Find the man. This is a valuable promotion that I'm throwing at Aldo right now.
This really is. You need to up your tier level, I think.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I snuck a tier level in here and nobody noticed, which is fine because I'm like revamping it. Because I got to be honest, $10 for this, which is what you pay if you go to patreon.com/JeffMay and go to the producer tier. It's probably a little low, which is why I have 93 people that do it, which is great. I love that. But I'm probably going to be shifting it to a different situation here.
Fair enough.
So, Ethan Larwrence, now that we got that out of the way, why aren't you on my Patreon?
I'm
Jeff. Just kidding. Could you imagine if I just had you on there and be like, "What the f*** is that all about?"
Like properly roasting me.
So the Bad Education, there was a movie on it, right?
Yeah, there was. So this happened really not long after Series 3 came out.
A year after. So it was 2015, and then Bad Education series finished in 2014.
Yeah, I think, because I get the dates mixed up because always get confused with when it came out and when we actually made it.
It's all right. I'm here for you.
But it was the, we made it in the February, March of 2015, I think. So yeah, that makes sense. That all lines up.
Mm-hmm. Was that, how was that as an experience versus the TV show? Was it any different, or was it basically you were doing like a long episode?
It was essentially like a long episode. I mean, it helped that the director of the movie was also the director of Series 2, Elliot Hegarty, who's very, very good. I think he's done some Modern Family. I think he's done a few episodes of that.
Oh, great. Yeah,
he's very good. But outside of, because the conceit of the film is that they go on a school trip to area in the UK called Cornwall, which is all very piratey. And so like we went down to Cornwall for 5 weeks and shot it down there. So that was really the only difference, the fact that we were on location. It was kind of shot a lot like the TV show, just with a slightly more inflated budget.
Was the pay better?
Yeah, it was. It sort of rose in scale with sort of the how it all felt, like the bigness of it.
Okay, because I was wondering about that. I was like, because it's obviously, if it's a movie, it's going to be a bit more prestige as far as that was concerned. So I was just like, you got paid better for it, right?
Yeah.
It's one of those things. It's the only thing that I've ever appreciated Mark Wahlberg doing is telling creatives to make sure that they get paid.
For sure.
That was something where, I find him to be a relatively detestable human being.
He was right on that. So
all things considered, but also that on Bad Education, did you get to interact with Michelle Gomez a lot?
Not a lot, because a lot of our scenes weren't together, but we did meet and we did talk.
She is one of my favorite actors.
Where did you discover her?
I think originally it might have been Sabrina, where she shows up in Sabrina, and you're like, oh damn, like this lady's cool as hell, and then she shows up in Doom Patrol. Yeah, and Doom Patrol is like I love Doom Patrol. I think it's a great show, and she was on that. So when I was watching this, and I'm not familiar with Jack really, so it was really just you that I recognized, and then she shows up, and I was like, oh,
great surprise, right?
I got very excited. She's unbelievably talented.
She's phenomenal. She's so good. Like sometimes when you're working on stuff, like you're there on the set, but you're not doing anything at that moment, so you're just sort of watching what's going on. And there are just some people that you watch and you're like, I get it. My God, like that's how you do it. And Michelle's definitely one of those.
It really is. So you have something coming out called The Liar?
Yeah, so this is a bit of a this has been a bit of a bugbear. So I auditioned for that at the tail end of 2017. And
really?
Nothing has happened really. It's one of those ones that's unfortunately sort of ended up in a bit of a development hell.
That's what it seems like. It's because it says it's in post still.
I mean, we haven't shot a foot of film. Like it's
in
just
pre.
One of those things that sort of never came together, and it's various reasons. Like it's just one of those things where like the schedules didn't line up. It was going to be funded by Fox Searchlight, but then Disney acquired Fox, and then that was all up in the air.
Oh yeah.
And it's just issue after issue after issue, and then of course COVID hit.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things where it's just been bad luck after bad luck, and I hope we get to do it, but it just seems, again, because the character I'm playing in that is like a teenage kid.
Yeah, right.
And like the closer I clatter to 30, the less likely it's going to be possible for me to play a 15-year-old.
You're turning 30 this year.
Yeah. And I think at a certain point, it's just not going to fly.
Okay, so it's funny because as I was pouring through, you have two shows with relatively similar titles that are very different shows. You have Modern Horror Stories.
Yes.
Which is a series in which you play Adrian, Phil, Doug. Yeah,
so it's like it was a sketch show. For the UK version of Comedy Central.
Okay.
And essentially it was sort of like that kind of sort of zeitgeisty thing where it was like doing sketches about sort of like millennial angst.
Okay.
So like, for example, in one of them, it was like millennial Monopoly, and like that every single square on the Monopoly board fucked you over in some way. And like, it's
that's kind of that's a great
stuff
idea.
that they put out. So what's the other one that's similar to that?
Horrible Histories.
Okay, right. Yes.
Which is the thing that you did after you did Afterlife? Was this?
Yeah, so again, sort of COVID sort of messed up the kind of dates for that. So Horrible Histories it was a book series in the UK, written by Terry Deary, which is sort of just a fun way of looking at history. Like, instead of sort of like just a boring list of dates, it got into like the more gruesome aspects of it. And it was very successful. Okay. And then eventually they made essentially a children's sketch show. It is another sketch show, but just based on those books. And I'm not far off starting doing work on that again. And it's going into its 10th and 11th series, which is like it's crazy for something to last that long in the UK. But like it's a real sort of prestige children's TV show. Like it's won awards across the board. It's an absolute privilege to be involved with it.
Yeah, most series end up going, most shows, excuse me, only usually end up going like 2 or 3 seasons out there, right?
For sure. But I'm just thinking this one, like the well is never dry, like because it just encompasses all of history. So there's always new stuff to talk about.
Fair. That was Fleabag. Fleabag was a good example of 2 seasons done. She's done telling her story. And when so many people in America were like mad there wasn't going to be a 3rd season.
For sure. I mean, another good example is, sort of making a sort of thematic link would be the UK Office.
Right.
Again, another 2 series and out.
Yeah, which is, it's fine. I've watched it. I hate to say this, but I prefer the mid seasons of the American Office to the British Office.
I mean, that's more than fair. Okay. Like, horses for courses, isn't it?
Yeah, right. Because I watched them both, and everyone's like, "Oh, the British one is so much better." And I watched it, and I was like, "Is it?" But obviously, the acting talent on that show is unbelievable.
It's crazy looking back on that. Like, that explosion of talent in like the early noughties.
Yeah, it's God, it is wild. Even people that are like, like bit parts that you see in a million things, and you're just like, "Oh, that's where it started." Okay.
Yeah. It was a real sort of like groundswell of UK talent. Again, sort of around the early noughties. There was shows like this and Black Books where like you see the same people going through sort of like the process because obviously they're all friends with each other. And now a frightening amount of them are household names.
I guess the IT crowd would be another one.
For sure, absolutely.
Like that as well. We're just naming British TV now. This is how I relate to you. I'm like other shows I've heard of.
These things exist.
What do you? So you collect dice. You play D&D.
Yes, that's my hobby, as it were.
That is how long you been doing that?
I started around 4 years ago because I'd always been sort of interested in it, but sort of didn't really know how to sort of worm my way in. Funnily enough, I got into it through podcasts, like through actual play podcasts, and I was like, "Well, that sounds like a lot of fun."
I figured I was going to assume that's what happened. The boom, the D&D boom, has been fascinating.
Yeah, it's. I mean, helped in no small part by like stuff like Stranger Things as well. Like,
right.
The sort of the culture surrounding it is sort of it's sort of slotted in quite nicely. But yeah, so I a friend of mine played it a lot, and we sort of put together a group that sort of ended because of COVID. But then they were all in London, which is it's about an hour from me.
A city. Oh, okay.
I
thought you were describing what London is, and I was like, there's not a lot of credit being given to me right now.
No. I'm just it's a distance from where I am. Is the point.
Okay.
But so I set up a local group over here with some of my friends, and again, COVID played a part of that. But then we started doing it over Zoom and stuff, and we just sort of kept going. So I was a player in that old group, which is sadly no longer a thing, and I'm both a dungeon master and a player on with my local group, and it's a real sort of it's a lovely thing to do, like just hang out with your friends and tell a story together.
As a player, what's your character?
So the one, because basically we switch between myself and one of my other people in the group, being the DM. We sort of do like kind of short-term campaigns. The last one I played was a half vampire bard called Fuego. I think he was called Fuego.
Of course, he's a bard.
Yeah, I hadn't played a bard before, so I was just sort of interested in it.
Well, you are a bard. You are one.
Oh, in a way, stop.
Like you. I mean, you're a performer, so that would track.
Well, yeah, I suppose. I never really thought about that though.
Critical Role and stuff. Did you like follow that or?
So my way in was because I used to again like with Cracked, I was a big fan of College Humor back in the day.
Okay, yeah.
And I ended up following Jake and Amir onto their own podcast network, Headgun. And one of the shows they have on that is a D&D show called Not Another D&D Podcast. And that was sort of my first exposure to it. And, they're still going strong, which is great. I actually got the opportunity to see them live in London at one point, which is great fun. But yeah, that sort of ignited the sort of buzz in me. I was like, this looks like it could be a lot of fun. I want to roll things.
Is it weird for you that you could theoretically be in the audience, but you could also be like a quote celebrity guest on one of these things at this point?
No, I mean, I don't think I'm undervaluing myself when I say I'm not that big of a deal, really. I'm sort of a kind of comedy mercenary for hire, like, certainly not a household name. I mean, I don't know. I think for a show that big, probably not. I don't know. I'm not sure. It's a very interesting question.
I wonder about that, like where that point is that, that you are that, where, because you're not invisible on social media. You have more followers than I do. You work really hard. You're on certain series that have been very popular. So I wonder about that, where it would lift your visibility by being like, hey, if you guys ever want this, like, I'd love to do it. I'm a huge fan. Like, have you ever reached out to those guys?
To be honest, no, I haven't. But then to a certain degree, like, one of the reasons we connected over this is because I was interested in doing podcasts to sort of like both elevate myself and also elevate the podcasts as well, because I love podcasting as a medium.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Would you say that I sort of maybe leveraged myself in a way to sort of get on your pod? I don't know. That makes it sound more crass than I meant.
No, I think because you told me that you were available, and you actually you don't realize. I think you don't realize how perfect your timing was. I had just finished recording with Therese, which was a delight, and she actually came here and recorded in person, and it's legit one of my favorite episodes, and I hope people listen to it, because sometimes if something's not what they're interested in, because she's a singer, and some people are like, I'm not interested in singing, bring on comic book artists. Like that happened with Sean McCune, my former student who plays for the Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys. A lot of my fans don't like sports. They skipped that episode. It's an incredible episode. And they skipped it.
You should always listen to all of them. That's the thing, because you never know. I mean, you don't even like sports is a good example. Like, it would have been easy to give it a miss because I don't like sports, but you got to give this stuff a go, people.
I think I hope people trust me enough, but that's actually, it's weird that that's such a that's one of the lower episodes of listenership, and totally shouldn't be, because that version of that. But anyway, so I had just finished with Therese, and you had sent me that message, and I was just about to go into freak out mode because of Comic-Con. I'm going to be gone next week during Comic-Con. So upon release, this was last week. I'm now back. Hi.
Hey.
So I'm gone Tuesday night, and I don't get back until early Monday. So that takes up so much recording time, and I have to have the episode up by that next Tuesday. Right. It would have been a nightmare. So to have you offer to be on the show when I was going to hit you up at some point anyway, it's just hard with actors because they're oftentimes gone,
well, this is the thing. Like, the reason why I sort of prioritized it for now is because I'm going to be starting on Horrible Histories again soon, and that takes me from July all the way through to Christmas. So there's like,
oh wow.
There's going to be no time, so I thought better strike while the iron's hot. And I remember you posting, it might have been on your Instagram or on your Twitter one time, when you were talking about how difficult it can be to secure guests, because you reach out and like for every one you get, there's like 9 bounce backs.
Yeah, it's and cancellations too. Like that's the other thing too, is somebody, I might have a high profile comic writer coming on the show, and then they say, I have a deadline, I can't give you an hour and a half. Right. I have to work. And it's like, I get it, because that job is so much more important. My job is to worry about the booking and the recording. So that actually was a very gift of the Magi situation here. Huh.
Very good. But yeah, no, it's a pleasure, because as I say, I've been a fan of yours for quite some time. So it was great to actually have a long form chat with you.
I do appreciate that, actually. I genuinely love that. And it's also, I mean, obviously, this our connection is going on 10 years almost of because it would have been 2013, I think, was the first pod that we did.
Yeah, near enough. Yeah, gosh, that is a long time.
It sure is. So to have that, and that happens too. I think a lot of people are surprised when they find out that some people that are famous are also fans of me who's not famous. It's weird. It's a weird thing, and it's a hell of a compliment. So thank you for supporting the industry.
Oh no, I mean it's my pleasure. I mean I've taken out of listening to podcasts way more than I could ever think to put back in.
I think you put a lot in here. Now, Horrible Histories is we should send people if you are interested in watching Afterlife, and I do understand why one wouldn't want to see that show and give certain people their eyes, but I can tell you now that the show is done, right? It's just 3 seasons and out. So in that regard, it's good. I liked it a lot. It's fun and silly and very dark.
Yes,
it is a dark comedy. I will say you should watch that. Horrible Histories. How can we see that?
So again, this is going to be difficult because I don't know how accessible things are in the States. My suggestion would be, because it's on the BBC iPlayer essentially. So if you're able to get hold of that, great. If not, I mean, I guess you could use a VPN. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm looking it up now. Like, how can we? It seems like you can access them on Amazon.
Okay.
Maybe even on Prime. I mean, I guess you can purchase them. Currently, you are able to watch. Okay, so on JustWatch.com, you are able to watch Horrible Histories for streaming on Hulu or for free with ads on Pluto TV. Freevee Amazon channel, Peacock Premium, the Roku channel, Tubi TV, and Redbox. So it seems like
a lot of places.
It seems like we have access to that. I know that you can YouTube Bad Education.
Yes.
Bad Education has a lot of gut laughs for me. We had
thank you.
I mean, I didn't do anything but react, honestly. You can find Ethan at Ethan D. Larwrence. That's ETHAN Larwrence is LAWRENCE on both Twitter and Instagram. Is that correct?
And TikTok as well, but I'm shutting that up for the time being because I'm going to be going to work soon and I do not have time to make my silly little videos.
And TikTok, which, boy, am I 1,000 years old because I didn't even think to bring up TikTok because I am disconnected. I don't get it.
No, I mean, I barely understand it myself, but you've got to put yourself in places, haven't you?
Anything else I should tell people to be on the lookout for?
I think that's pretty much covered. If anything does come up, I'll be sure to put it up on my socials, so it will be there if you follow me.
Perfect. I love that. Now, for those of you that are patrons, stick around because we're going to have a couple minutes of little bonus content. If you are not a patron, please check out patreon.com/JeffMay, where you can check out this plus the monthly Ugh Fine with Kim Crawl, plus more coming, as well as the early uncensored episodes with bonus content of this show and all others like it. Again, that's patreon.com/JeffMay. You can find me at Hey There Jeffro on Twitter and Instagram, and that's really only where you can find me on my YouTube. I guess I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to start doing Twitch stuff, I think, soon.
Oh, exciting.
It's hard to learn new things. It's so hard. Again, as we talked about before, you can check out Tom and Jeff Watch Batman on Gamefully Unemployed, Unpopular Opinion, and You Don't Even Like Sports, both available on the Unpops network. Ethan, say goodbye to everybody that's listening to for free.
Bye, everyone who's listening for free.
Bye, everyone who's listening for free. Thank you for your ears and time.
Thank you for your ears and time.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Hey, everyone. Our artwork is created by Justin T. Brown, who can be found at Artness by Justin Brown on Instagram, as well as artnessbyjustinbrown.com. That dope music you heard is by Troy Nababon, available at Troy Nababon on Instagram, as well as at troynababon.com. Nababon is spelled Nababon.